The silence before goodbye. Death doesn't always knock. Sometimes it whispers. And when it does, it's not with a scythe or a scream, but with small, almost imperceptible shifts in the way we sleep, breathe, think, or fade. We live like tomorrow is guaranteed. We make plans for vacations, deadlines, birthdays, but the truth, cold and unwavering, is this: every second brings us closer to a moment we will not see. This isn't a message of fear. It's a reminder of awareness. Because whether you're young or old, healthy or battling illness, the body has its own language, and it speaks before the end arrives. Not through mysticism, not through omens, but through biology, whispers written into our cells. You see, most people don't recognize the signs that death is approaching, not because they're hidden, but because we're too afraid to look. And yet, there's something deeply human about knowing. It gives us time to speak the words we've been holding in. It gives us a chance to prepare, not our bags, but our souls. In this video, I won't show you horror or sadness. I'll show you 5 powerful, medically backed signs that the body is preparing for its final journey. And I'll explain how, in recognizing them, we don't just prepare for death. We learn how to live with more intention. Because when you witness these signs, whether in yourself or someone you love, you're being given something precious. A final window. A last stretch of light before the dusk. And maybe, just maybe, that's when the most meaningful moments are born. So if you're still here, still listening, take a breath, be still, and let's begin. Sign 1. When sleep becomes a farewell letter. At first, it's just a nap, then another one, and before anyone realizes what's happening, the days start to blur. Waking hours shrink, and nights stretch like endless corridors. We often treat sleep as a luxury or a necessity. But near the end, sleep becomes something else entirely. A signal, a whispered announcement from the body that the journey is beginning to turn inward. Some people sleep 14, 16, even 20 hours a day. They drift in and out like ocean tides with no rhythm to anchor them. Others, paradoxically, can't sleep at all, no matter how exhausted they are. They toss, they fidget, their minds race in a desperate, unconscious effort to squeeze meaning from each fleeting second. This is not simple exhaustion. It is not burnout. It is the body recalibrating its priorities. Imagine you're managing a city during a power crisis. You cut electricity to streetlights, to fountains, to stadiums, so that hospitals and emergency services can continue. That's what your body does too. It cuts power to everything non-essential, preserving energy only for your lungs, your heart, and the thinnest spark of consciousness. People often think the dying suddenly collapse, all at once, but more often, they slowly retreat. Sleep is not escape. It's a slow act of surrender, a gentle release of control. And the most haunting part, it's not always noticed by the one going through it. But loved ones, especially those who are deeply connected, begin to feel it. They say things like, "She's been sleeping more than usual lately. He's just not really here during the day anymore." It can start months before the end. And it doesn't always come with fanfare. There's no sudden collapse, no dramatic symptom, just a quiet disappearance into longer and deeper silences. And then, the rhythm of life starts to shift. A person who used to be wide awake in the mornings now wakes at 3 a.m., confused, then sleeps through lunch. What used to be day and night starts to lose meaning. The circadian clock, the very rhythm we're born with, begins to dissolve. But how do you know this isn't just stress, or aging, or the result of a long week? Here's the distinction. Normal sleep changes resolve. You catch up on rest, the cycle returns. But when sleep patterns shift before death, they do not fix themselves. They persist. They outlast your routines, your coffee, even your will to resist them. Some even begin to speak of strange dreams, recurring ones, of trains, of oceans, of people calling their name from distant places. One woman described dreaming she was floating above her childhood home, watching herself play in the garden. She hadn't remembered that house in 30 years. Another dreamt of her late father standing by her bedside, just smiling, never speaking. Are these dreams coincidence? Science will say yes, but the soul might disagree. And perhaps that's the real point. Whether you believe in biology or something beyond, the body begins to prepare, and it uses sleep as the first doorway through which to guide the self gently towards something else. So if someone you love, or even you, begins to sleep too much, or not at all, without stress, without medication, without cause, don't panic, but don't ignore it either. Sleep isn't just rest. Sometimes, sleep is preparation. Sign 2. The silence of hunger. At first it seems like nothing. You skip a meal. You say, I'm just not hungry today. Maybe 2 meals, maybe a whole day. The people around you might even smile. You're finally losing weight, they say. You look great, they insist. But inside, your body is quietly withdrawing from the act of nourishment. This is not the result of a diet, not a change in lifestyle, not a New Year's resolution. This is the body shifting into survival mode. We don't realize it, but digestion is an incredibly energy-intensive process. When the body senses that time is short, it makes a decision, a simple one, but profound. Stop feeding the systems that won't make it to the end. In the months, or even weeks before death, something subtle happens. Food loses its meaning. The smell of toast no longer brings comfort. The warmth of soup no longer feels like home. I remember a woman, mid-70s, full of light. She used to bake lemon tarts for every neighbor's birthday. One day, her grandson brought her favorite, still warm with just the right sweetness. She smiled, but barely touched it. It's beautiful, she said. I'm just not hungry. What followed was not immediate. Her clothes began to sag. Her wedding ring slipped on her finger. By the time anyone acknowledged it, she had lost 25 pounds. And she had stopped noticing. Doctors call this cachexia, a wasting syndrome. But it's more than weight loss. It's the body recalibrating, redirecting all resources to the heart, lungs, brain, letting the rest dissolve, gently. And what's strange is that sometimes, right in the middle of this decline, the person will suddenly ask for food again. A steak, a bowl of fruit. Families think she's getting better. But this short revival is often just a flicker, a final spark before the candle dies down again. Taste itself becomes distorted. Sweetness tastes bitter. Water tastes metallic. Your favorite chocolate? Suddenly bland, like chewing memory. This is not depression. This is not a mood. This is biology. The internal systems no longer investing in digestion because there are other systems still fighting for time. Some people will still force themselves to eat. They'll smile for their loved ones, pushing down spoonfuls like ritual. But behind their eyes, there's fatigue, a bone-deep exhaustion that no meal can fix. This is how the body whispers, I am letting go. So how do you know if this is one of the signs? Look not at the plate, but at the pattern. If someone who used to love food begins skipping meal after meal, if clothes that once fit now hang like drapery, if their strength vanishes and their voice softens, you're not seeing someone watch their figure. You may be witnessing the body preparing to say goodbye. And yet, here's the beauty hidden in the sorrow. As the body surrenders food, many people turn to memory. They talk more about old dinners than current meals. They'll tell you stories about a noodle shop from 1963, or the soup their mother made when they were 6. Because even when the taste fades, the meaning remains. And in those moments, they are not hungry for food. They are hungry for connection, for presence, for soft voices and still kitchens, for the feeling of being loved, even if their body no longer needs the calories. So if someone you love stops eating, do not push the plate. Sit with them. Ask them what they used to love. Ask them to teach you that recipe. even if they can no longer make it. Sometimes a shared story can nourish far more than a shared meal. And if it's you, if food has started to feel like a burden, don't be afraid. This isn't failure. This isn't giving up. It's your body choosing what matters most in the time it has left. Sign 3. The quiet goodbye of the mind. There's a moment when you look into someone's eyes, someone you've known your entire life, and realize they're not entirely there anymore. Their body is still warm, still functioning, but something about their gaze has changed. Less focused on the world outside, more drawn inward. This is one of the most misunderstood signs that death may be approaching. The emotional and mental detachment that quietly takes hold. It doesn't arrive like thunder. It slips in like fog. You notice it in pauses between conversations, in how they no longer care about the bills or what day it is or who won the election. They're still polite, still here, but different. Like their soul is slowly packing its bags while their body remains seated at the dinner table. Loved ones often mistake this for depression. They say, "She's giving up. He's not trying anymore." But this is not defeat. It's preparation. Neurologically, something extraordinary is happening. The brain begins to shift its focus. The amygdala, the part responsible for fear and anxiety, starts to quiet. The prefrontal cortex, the seat of social obligation and daily worries, slows its chatter. Instead, the person begins to operate from memory, from meaning, from essence. Some become deeply spiritual, even if they were never religious. They talk about their childhood, or people who've passed away. Some speak as if they're in conversation with someone invisible. Others begin to sort through objects with unusual intensity. A scarf from their mother, an old photo, a letter never sent. This is the mind detaching from noise and tuning into legacy. They're not withdrawing from you. They're releasing the weight of the world so that they may step lightly into whatever comes next. And then, something even more mysterious may happen, a phenomenon doctors call terminal lucidity. It sounds like a miracle, and in some ways, it is. Someone who has been confused for weeks, even nonverbal, suddenly speaks clearly. They remember names, they crack a joke, they hold your hand and say the exact thing you've longed to hear. Families often believe this is a sign of recovery, but in most cases, it is the mind's last coherent breath. A moment of clarity gifted not just to the dying, but to those they leave behind. It's one final act of presence. Before they begin to drift completely. You may wonder, how is this different from dementia or mental illness? The answer is time and intensity. This shift doesn't happen over years. It unfolds within weeks, sometimes even days, and it comes with a profound shift in perspective, not just memory. People stop asking what's next. They stop worrying about unfinished tasks. They begin to say things like, "Everything feels like it's in the right place now. I think I'm ready. I saw Dad again. He looks the same." And as painful as it is to hear, there's something beautiful about it too. This detachment isn't cold. It's not emptiness. It's a form of peace. Because when someone's mind starts to let go of the noise, what remains is clarity, connection, and the unspoken knowledge that time is precious and nearly complete. If you see this in someone you love, don't demand they snap out of it. Don't push them to return to the life they once lived. Sit beside them. Ask questions about their childhood. Let them talk about their dreams, even the strange ones. Be there not to pull them back, but to walk alongside them for as long as they can still walk. Because this sign, perhaps more than any other, is not just a symptom. It's an invitation to say goodbye while they're still here. And if it's you, if you feel yourself letting go of the world, not with fear, but with quiet understanding, know this: you are not broken. You are becoming light enough to pass through. Sign 4. When the body begins to retreat. The body is a masterpiece of survival. It adjusts, it fights, it adapts. But when the end nears, when the journey winds down, Even the most resilient systems begin to pull back. And this retreat isn't metaphorical. It's visible. You can see it on the surface, in the skin, in the breath, in the fingertips of someone you love. When the body senses it can no longer sustain everything, it begins to choose what's essential. The brain, the heart, the lungs, what isn't essential. The extremities, the skin, the outer edges of the self. Blood flow begins to retract, pulling inward. And suddenly, the hands and feet grow cold, not cool, but cold in a way that doesn't warm up with socks or blankets. The medical term for this is mottling, a marbled, purple-blue discoloration that appears on the feet and legs first, then creeps upward like shadows, spreading across a wall. Most people who see it for the first time are startled. They ask, "Is this normal? Why does her skin look like that? Should we call someone?" The truth is, this is the body doing exactly what it's meant to do. It is redirecting every drop of energy, every ounce of blood to the core. To keep the heart going just a little longer, to keep the lungs drawing breath, even if shallow, to keep the brain conscious just long enough. The fingertips pale, the nail beds turn blue or gray, the lips may lose their warmth. The skin begins to look almost translucent, as if the body itself is preparing to disappear. And then comes the breath. The pattern changes, from steady to staggered, from deep to shallow, and sometimes to still. Doctors call it Cheyne-Stokes respiration, a rhythm of breathing that crescendos and fades, with pauses in between that stretch longer and longer. It sounds frightening, but it's not painful. It's simply the body's way of adjusting to its final tempo. Imagine an orchestra winding down. The violins slow, the drums fall silent, and the music begins to drift into silence. That's what happens here. Some families sit in dread, counting the seconds between each breath, thinking, "Is this the last one? Is she still breathing?" But the body knows. It doesn't panic. It softens. Even the skin tells the truth. It grows thinner, softer, waxy in some cases, as if it's no longer protecting what lies underneath, because soon it won't need to. And yet, even in this physical unraveling, there is wisdom. Because your body, the same body that carried you across playgrounds and cities, the same body that held your laughter and your grief, knows how to say goodbye. It does not fight blindly. It adapts with purpose. It gives you time. It conserves energy not for healing, but for honoring what remains. When someone you love grows colder, when their breath becomes irregular, when their skin changes, don't panic. Instead, know this: you are standing beside someone whose body is crossing thresholds. And while it may look frightening, what you are witnessing is the wisdom of nature at work. Sit beside them, hold their hand, even if it feels colder than it used to. Speak gently, sing softly. Let them know that even as the body retreats, love remains fully present. Because in these final changes, there is still connection, and it is sacred. Sign 5. When the body speaks without words, there comes a moment, quiet, unmarked, when the body stops trying to survive and starts trying to speak. Not in sentences, not in pleas or declarations, but in signs, subtle, sacred, and often misunderstood. Most people miss them or dismiss them because they don't look like the end. They look like twitching hands, a strange breath, a sudden stillness. But for those who are watching closely, for those who are listening with more than just ears, these moments are messages. The body, in its final stretch, begins to say goodbye in a language older than words. The first to speak is often smell, a faint, metallic scent in the room, not decay, not illness, but the chemistry of departure. As the liver and kidneys slow down, waste builds subtly in the blood, and the air changes. It's not offensive, it's just different, like the space itself is exhaling. Then come the sounds. The death rattle is one of the most misunderstood phenomena, a gurgling, rattling breath that echoes in the throat. Families often panic, thinking the person is drowning, suffering. But here's the truth. This sound is not painful. It's simply what happens when the body no longer spends energy clearing its airways. The effort is gone. The purpose has shifted. Then come the movements. Hands picking at sheets, fingers reaching into the air. Eyes scanning corners of the room that appear empty. To the untrained eye, these gestures seem random. But they are patterns, often triggered by shifting oxygen levels and brain chemistry. Some say the dying see people waiting for them. Loved ones long gone. A mother's hand, a child's voice. Science can explain it, but love doesn't need to. And then there's the hearing, the last sense to fade. A person may be unconscious, eyes closed, unmoving, but they can still hear you. That's why hospice nurses whisper gently. Why family members sit beside the bed and talk to the person like they're still awake. Because they are listening right until the very end. And finally, there are the pauses. The long silences between breaths. The stillness that stretches too far. The moment you realize the next breath may not come. It's terrifying. It's beautiful. It's real. And yet, many people don't know that even here, the body is still giving, still guiding. Some hold on until their daughter arrives from out of town. Some wait until a holiday has passed. Some seem to choose the moment they leave, when the room is empty or full. These are not coincidences. They are choices made deep within the soul. Because death is not chaotic. It's not random. It is, like birth, a process. One final unfolding of meaning. And if we pay attention, if we witness these final communications, not with fear, but with reverence, we're gifted something sacred. A moment to say, I'm here. I love you. It's okay to let go. And that moment may be the most meaningful of all. Closing message, don't turn away. Now that you know the 5 signs, sleep changes, sudden appetite loss, emotional detachment, circulation shifts, and final body communications, you carry something few people ever receive before it's too late. Awareness, not to fear death, but to honor it, to prepare for it, and most of all, to live better because of it. If these signs appear in someone you love, don't fill the silence with panic. Fill it with presence, with questions, with warmth. Tell the stories you've been waiting to tell. Ask the questions you've been afraid to ask. Say the things that are too often left unsaid. And if it's you, if you notice these signs in yourself, don't be afraid. There's still time. Time for peace, time for clarity, time for closure. If this video helped you understand something deeper about life or death, please consider liking, commenting, and sharing it with someone who might need it. Your voice may bring comfort in ways you'll never fully realize. And if you'd like to stay with us as we explore life's hidden truths, subscribe to the channel. Because we don't tell stories for shock. We tell them for understanding. And sometimes, for healing. Thank you for being here. We'll see you in the next story. Because life doesn't wait. And neither does truth.